Genesis chapter 33.
Verse 1. Jacob looked up and there was Esau, coming with his 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel and the two maidservants. Verse 2. He put the maidservants and their children in front, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph in the rear. Verse 3. He himself went on ahead and bowed down to the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. Verse 4. But Esau ran to meet Jacob and embraced him. He threw his arms around his neck and kissed him. And they wept. Verse 5. Then Esau looked up and saw the women and children. Who are these with you? He asked. Jacob answered, They are the children God has graciously given your servant. Verse 6. Then the maidservants and their children approached and bowed down. Verse 7. Next, Leah and her children came and bowed down. Last of all came Joseph and Rachel, and they too bowed down. Verse 8. Esau asked, What do you mean by all these droves I met? To find favor in your eyes, my lord, he said. Verse 9. But Esau said, I already have plenty, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself. Verse 10. No, please, said Jacob. If I have found favor in your eyes, accept this gift from me. For to see your face is like seeing the face of God, now that you have received me favorably. Verse 11. Please accept the present that was brought to you, for God has been gracious to me and I have all I need. And because Jacob insisted, Esau accepted it. Verse 12. Then Esau said, Let us be on our way. I'll accompany you. Verse 13. But Jacob said to him, My Lord knows that the children are tender and that I must care for the ewes and cows that are nursing their young. If they are driven hard just one day, all the animals will die. Verse 14. So let my Lord go on ahead of his servant, while I move along slowly at the pace of the droves before me and that of the children, until I come to my Lord in Seir. Verse 15. Esau said, Then let me leave some of my men with you. But why do that? Jacob asked, Just let me find favor in the eyes of my Lord. Verse 16. So that day Esau started on his way back to Seir. Verse 17. Jacob, however, went to Succoth, where he built a place for himself and made shelters for his livestock. That is why the place is called Succoth. Verse 18. After Jacob came from Padan Aram, he arrived safely at the city of Shechem in Canaan and camped within sight of the city. Verse 19. For 100 pieces of silver, he bought from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, the plot of ground where he pitched his tent. Verse 20. There he set up an altar and called it El Elohe Israel.
Chapter 34.
Verse 1. Now Dinah, the daughter Leah had borne to Jacob, went out to visit the women of the land. Verse 2. When Shechem son of Hamor the Hivite, the ruler of that area, saw her, he took her and violated her. Verse 3. His heart was drawn to Dinah daughter of Jacob, and he loved the girl and spoke tenderly to her. Verse 4. And Shechem said to his father Hamor, Get me this girl as my wife. Verse 5. When Jacob heard that his daughter Dinah had been defiled, his sons were in the fields with his livestock. So he kept quiet about it until they came home. Verse 6. Then Shechem's father Hamor went out to talk with Jacob. Verse 7. Now Jacob's sons had come in from the fields as soon as they heard what had happened. They were filled with grief and fury, because Shechem had done a disgraceful thing in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, a thing that should not be done. Verse 8. But Hamor said to them, My son Shechem has his heart set on your daughter. Please give her to him as his wife. Verse 9. Intermarry with us. Give us your daughters and take our daughters for yourselves. Verse 10. You can settle among us. The land is open to you. Live in it, trade in it, and acquire property in it. Verse 11. Then Shechem said to Dinah's father and brothers, Let me find favor in your eyes, and I will give you whatever you ask. Verse 12. Make the price for the bride and the gift I am to bring as great as you like, and I'll pay whatever you ask me. Only give me the girl as my wife. Verse 13. Because their sister Dinah had been defiled, Jacob's sons replied deceitfully as they spoke to Shechem and his father Hamor. Verse 14. They said to them, We can't do such a thing. We can't give our sister to a man who is not circumcised. That would be a disgrace to us. Verse 15. We will give our consent to you on one condition only. that you become like us by circumcising all your males. Verse 16, then we will give you our daughters and take your daughters for ourselves. We'll settle among you and become one people with you. Verse 17, but if you will not agree to be circumcised, we'll take our sister and go. Verse 18, their proposal seemed good to Hamor and his son Shechem. Verse 19, the young man, who was the most honored of all his father's household, lost no time in doing what they said, because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. Verse 20, so Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of their city to speak to their fellow townsmen. Verse 21, these men are friendly toward us, they said. Let them live in our land and trade in it. The land has plenty of room for them. We can marry their daughters and they can marry ours. Verse 22, but the men will consent to live with us as one people only on the condition that our males be circumcised, as they themselves are. Verse 23, won't their livestock, their property and all their other animals become ours? So let us give our consent to them, and they will settle among us. Verse 24, all the men who went out of the city gate agreed with Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male in the city was circumcised. Verse 25, 3 days later, while all of them were still in pain, two of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and attacked the unsuspecting city, killing every male. Verse 26, they put Hamor and his son Shechem to the sword and took Dinah from Shechem's house and left. Verse 27, the sons of Jacob came upon the dead bodies and looted the city where their sister had been defiled. Verse 28, they seized their flocks and herds and donkeys and everything else of theirs in the city and out in the fields. Verse 29, they carried off all their wealth and all their women and children, taking as plunder everything in the houses. Verse 30, then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, you have brought trouble on me by making me a stench to the Canaanites and Perizzites, the people living in this land. We are few in number, and if they join forces against me and attack me, I and my household will be destroyed. Verse 31, but they replied, should he have treated our sister like a prostitute?
Chapter 35.
Verse 1, then God said to Jacob, go up to Bethel and settle there, and build an altar there to God, who appeared to you when you were fleeing from your brother Esau. Verse 2, so Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, get rid of the foreign gods you have with you, and purify yourselves and change your clothes. Verse 3, then come, let us go up to Bethel, where I will build an altar to God, who answered me in the day of my distress and who has been with me wherever I have gone. Verse 4, so they gave Jacob all the foreign gods they had and the rings in their ears, and Jacob buried them under the oak at Shechem. Verse 5, then they set out, and the terror of God fell upon the towns all around them so that no one pursued them. Verse 6, Jacob and all the people with him came to Luz, that is, Bethel, in the land of Canaan. Verse 7, there he built an altar, and he called the place El Bethel, because it was there that God revealed himself to him when he was fleeing from his brother. Verse 8, now Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died and was buried under the oak below Bethel. So it was named Elon Bakuth. Verse 9, after Jacob returned from Padan Aram, God appeared to him again and blessed him. Verse 10, God said to him, your name is Jacob, but you will no longer be called Jacob, your name will be Israel. So he named him Israel. Verse 11, and God said to him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and increase in number. A nation and a community of nations will come from you, and kings will come from your body. Verse 12, the land I gave to Abraham and Isaac the first also give to you, and I will give this land to your descendants after you. Verse 13, then God went up from him at the place where he had talked with him. Verse 14, Jacob set up a stone pillar at the place where God had talked with him, and he poured out a drink offering on it, he also poured oil on it. Verse 15, Jacob called the place where God had talked with him Bethel. Verse 16, then they moved on from Bethel. While they were still some distance from Ephrath, Rachel began to give birth and had great difficulty. Verse 17, and as she was having great difficulty in childbirth, the midwife said to her, don't be afraid, for you have another son. Verse 18, as she breathed her last for she was dying she named her son Ben-Oni. But his father named him Benjamin. Verse 19, So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is, Bethlehem. Verse 20, over her tomb Jacob set up a pillar, and to this day that pillar marks Rachel's tomb. Verse 21, Israel moved on again and pitched his tent beyond Migdal Eder. Verse 22, while Israel was living in that region, Reuben went in and slept with his father's concubine Bilhah, and Israel heard of it. Jacob had 12 sons. Verse 23, the sons of Leah: Reuben the firstborn of Jacob, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar and Zebulun. Verse 24, the sons of Rachel: Joseph and Benjamin. Verse 25, the sons of Rachel's maidservant Bilhah: Dan and Naphtali. Verse 26, the sons of Leah's maidservant Zilpah: Gad and Asher. These were the sons of Jacob, who were born to him in Padan Aram. Verse 27, Jacob came home to his father Isaac in Mamre, near Kiriath Arba, that is, Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had stayed. Verse 28, Isaac lived 180 years. Verse 29, then he breathed his last and died and was gathered to his people, old and full of years. And his sons Esau and Jacob buried him.
Chapter 36.
Verse 1, this is the account of Esau, that is, Edom. Verse 2, Esau took his wives from the women of Canaan: Adah daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Oholibamah daughter of Anna and granddaughter of Zibin the Hivite. Verse 3, also Basemath daughter of Ishmael and sister of Nebaioth. Verse 4, Adah bore Eliphaz to Esau, Basemath bore Reuel. Verse 5, and Oholibamah bore Josh, Jalam and Korah. These were the sons of Esau, who were born to him in Canaan. Verse 6, Esau took his wives and sons and daughters and all the members of his household, as well as his livestock and all his other animals and all the goods he had acquired in Canaan, and moved to a land some distance from his brother Jacob. Verse 7, their possessions were too great for them to remain together. The land where they were staying could not support them both because of their livestock. Verse 8, so Esau, that is, Edom, settled in the hill country of Seir. Verse 9, this is the account of Esau the father of the Edomites in the hill country of Seir. Verse 10, these are the names of Esau's sons: Eliphaz, the son of Esau's wife Adah, and Reuel, the son of Esau's wife Basemath. Verse 11, the sons of Eliphaz: Teman, Omar, Zepho, Gatam and Kenaz. Verse 12, Esau's son Eliphaz also had a concubine named Timnah, who bore him Amalek. These were grandsons of Esau's wife Adah. Verse 13, the sons of Reuel: Nahath, Zerah, Shammah and Mizah. These were grandsons of Esau's wife Basemath. Verse 14, the sons of Esau's wife Oholibamah daughter of Anna and granddaughter of Zibin, whom she bore to Esau: Josh, Jalam and Korah. Verse 15, these were the chiefs among Esau's descendants, the sons of Eliphaz the firstborn of Esau: chiefs Teman, Omar, Zepho, Kenaz. Verse 16, Korah, Gatam and Amalek. These were the chiefs descended from Eliphaz in Edom. They were grandsons of Adah. Verse 17, the sons of Esau's son Reuel: chiefs Nahath, Zerah, Shammah and Mizah. These were the chiefs descended from Reuel in Edom. They were grandsons of Esau's wife Basemath. Verse 18, the sons of Esau's wife Oholibamah: chiefs Josh, Jalam and Korah. These were the chiefs descended from Esau's wife Oholibamah daughter of Anna. Verse 19, these were the sons of Esau, that is, Edom, and these were their chiefs. Verse 20, these were the sons of Seir the Horite, who were living in the region: Lotan, Shobal, Zibin, Anna. Verse 21, Dissan, Ezer and Dishon. These sons of Seir in Edom were Horite chiefs. Verse 22, the sons of Lotan: Hori and Homam. Timnah was Lotan's sister. Verse 23, the sons of Shobal: Alvan, Manahath, Ebal, Shepho and Onam. Verse 24, the sons of Zibin: Aiah and Anna. This is the Anna who discovered the hot springs in the desert while he was grazing the donkeys of his father Zibin. Verse 25, the children of Anna: Dissan and Oholibamah daughter of Anna. Verse 26, the sons of Dissan: Hemdan, Eshban, Ithran and Karen. Verse 27, the sons of Ezer, Bilhan, Zavan and Akan. Verse 28, the sons of Dishon, Uz and Aaron. Verse 29, these were the Horite chiefs, Lotan, Shobal, Zibin, Anna. Verse 30, Disan, Ezer and Dishon. These were the Horite chiefs, according to their divisions, in the land of Seir. Verse 31, these were the kings who reigned in Edom before any Israelite king reigned. Verse 32, Bela son of Beor became king of Edom. His city was named Dinhabah. Verse 33, when Bela died, Jobab son of Zerah from Bozrah succeeded him as king. Verse 34, when Jobab died, Husham from the land of the Temanites succeeded him as king. Verse 35, when Husham died, Hadad son of Bedad, who defeated Midian in the country of Moab, succeeded him as king. His city was named Avith. Verse 36, when Hadad died, Samlah from Masrekah succeeded him as king. Verse 37, when Samlah died, Shaul from Rehoboth on the river succeeded him as king. Verse 38, when Shaul died, Baal-Hanan son of Akbor succeeded him as king. Verse 39, when Baal-Hanan son of Akbor died, Hadad succeeded him as king. His city was named Pau, and his wife's name was Mehetabel daughter of Matred, the daughter of Mezahab. Verse 40, these were the chiefs descended from Esau, by name, according to their clans and regions. Timnah, Alva, Jetheth. Verse 41, Oholibamah, Elah, Pinon. Verse 42, Kenaz, Teman, Mibzar. Verse 43, Magdiel and Aram. These were the chiefs of Edom, according to their settlements in the land they occupied. This was Esau the father of the Edomites.
Chapter 37.
Verse 1, Jacob lived in the land where his father had stayed, the land of Canaan. Verse 2, this is the account of Jacob. Joseph, a young man of 17, was tending the flocks with his brothers, the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives, and he brought their father a bad report about them. Verse 3, now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons, because he had been born to him in his old age, and he made a richly ornamented robe for him. Verse 4, when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. Verse 5, Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. Verse 6, he said to them, listen to this dream I had. Verse 7, we were binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it. Verse 8, his brothers said to him, do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us? And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he had said. Verse 9, then he had another dream, and he told it to his brothers. Listen, he said, I had another dream, and this time the sun and moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me. Verse 10, when he told his father as well as his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, what is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you? Verse 11, his brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. Verse 12, now his brothers had gone to graze their father's flocks near Shechem. Verse 13, and Israel said to Joseph, as you know, your brothers are grazing the flocks near Shechem. Come, I am going to send you to them. Very well, he replied. Verse 14, so he said to him, go and see if all is well with your brothers and with the flocks, and bring word back to me. Then he sent him off from the valley of Hebron. When Joseph arrived at Shechem, verse 15, a man found him wandering around in the fields and asked him, what are you looking for? Verse 16, he replied, I'm looking for my brothers. Can you tell me where they are grazing their flocks? Verse 17, they have moved on from here, the man answered. I heard them say, let's go to Dothan. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them near Dothan. Verse 18, but they saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. Verse 19, here comes that dreamer. They said to each other. Verse 20, come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns and say that a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams. Verse 21, when Reuben heard this, he tried to rescue him from their hands. "Let's not take his life," he said. Verse 22, "Don't shed any blood. Throw him into this cistern here in the desert, but don't lay a hand on him." Reuben said this to rescue him from them and take him back to his father. Verse 23, "So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the richly ornamented robe he was wearing." Verse 24, "And they took him and threw him into the cistern. Now the cistern was empty, there was no water in it." Verse 25, "As they sat down to eat their meal, they looked up and saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead. Their camels were loaded with spices, balm and myrrh, and they were on their way to take them down to Egypt." Verse 26, Judah said to his brothers, "What will we gain if we kill our brother and cover up his blood?" Verse 27, "Come, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay our hands on him. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood." His brothers agreed. Verse 28, "So when the Midianite merchants came by, his brothers pulled Joseph up out of the cistern and sold him for 20 shekels of silver to the Ishmaelites, who took him to Egypt." Verse 29, "When Reuben returned to the cistern and saw that Joseph was not there, he tore his clothes." Verse 30, "He went back to his brothers and said, 'The boy isn't there. Where can I turn now?' Verse 31, "Then they got Joseph's robe, slaughtered a goat and dipped the robe in the blood." Verse 32, "They took the ornamented robe back to their father and said, 'We found this. Examine it to see whether it is your son's robe.' Verse 33, he recognized it and said, 'It is my son's robe. Some ferocious animal has devoured him. Joseph has surely been torn to pieces.' Verse 34, "Then Jacob tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and mourned for his son many days." Verse 35, "All his sons and daughters came to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. 'No,' he said, 'in mourning will I go down to the grave to my son.' So his father wept for him." Verse 36, "Meanwhile, the Midianites sold Joseph in Egypt to Potiphar, one of Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard."
Chapter 38.
Verse 1, "At that time, Judah left his brothers and went down to stay with a man of Adullam named Hira." Verse 2, "There Judah met the daughter of a Canaanite man named Shua. He married her and lay with her." Verse 3, "She became pregnant and gave birth to a son, who was named Verse 4, "She conceived again and gave birth to a son and named him Onan." Verse 5, "She gave birth to still another son and named him Shelah. It was at Kezib that she gave birth to him." Verse 6, "Judah got a wife for his firstborn, and her name was Tamar." Verse 7, "But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the Lord's sight, so the Lord put him to death." Verse 8, "Then Judah said to Onan, 'Lie with your brother's wife and fulfill your duty to her as a brother-in-law to produce offspring for your brother.' Verse 9, "But Onan knew that the offspring would not be his, so whenever he lay with his brother's wife, he spilled his semen on the ground to keep from producing offspring for his brother." Verse 10, "What he did was wicked in the Lord's sight, so he put him to death also." Verse 11, "Judah then said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, 'Live as a widow in your father's house until my son Shelah grows up.' For he thought, he may die too, just like his brothers. So Tamar went to live in her father's house." Verse 12, "After a long time Judah's wife, the daughter of Shua, died. When Judah had recovered from his grief, he went up to Timnah, to the men who were shearing his sheep, and his friend Hira the Adullamite went with him." Verse 13, "When Tamar was told, 'Your father-in-law is on his way to Timnah to shear his sheep.'" Verse 14, "She took off her widow's clothes, covered herself with a veil to disguise herself, and then sat down at the entrance to Enaim, which is on the road to Timnah. For she saw that, though Shelah had now grown up, she had not been given to him as his wife." Verse 15, "When Judah saw her, he thought she was a prostitute, for she had covered her face." Verse 16, "Not realizing that she was his daughter-in-law, he went over to her by the roadside and said, 'Come now, let me sleep with you.' 'And what will you give me to sleep with you?' she asked. Verse 17, "I'll send you a young goat from my flock," he said. "Will you give me something as a pledge until you send it?" she asked. Verse 18, he said, "What pledge should I give you?" "Your seal and its cord, and the staff in your hand," she answered. So he gave them to her and slept with her, and she became pregnant by him. Verse 19, after she left, she took off her veil and put on her widow's clothes again. Verse 20, meanwhile Judah sent the young goat by his friend the Adullamite in order to get his pledge back from the woman, but he did not find her. Verse 21, he asked the men who lived there, where is the shrine prostitute who was beside the road at Enaim? There hasn't been any shrine prostitute here, they said. Verse 22, so he went back to Judah and said, I didn't find her. Besides, the men who lived there said, there hasn't been any shrine prostitute here. Verse 23, then Judah said, let her keep what she has, or we will become a laughingstock. After all, I did send her this young goat, but you didn't find her. Verse 24, about 3 months later Judah was told, your daughter-in-law Tamar is guilty of prostitution, and as a result she is now pregnant. Judah said, bring her out and have her burned to death. Verse 25, as she was being brought out, she sent a message to her father-in-law. I am pregnant by the man who owns these, she said. And she added, see if you recognize whose seal and cord and staff these are. Verse 26, Judah recognized them and said, she is more righteous than I, since I wouldn't give her to my son Shelah. And he did not sleep with her again. Verse 27, when the time came for her to give birth, there were twin boys in her womb. Verse 28, as she was giving birth, one of them put out his hand. So the midwife took a scarlet thread and tied it on his wrist and said, this one came out first. Verse 29, but when he drew back his hand, his brother came out, and she said, so this is how you have broken out. And he was named Perez. Verse 30, then his brother, who had the scarlet thread on his wrist, came out and he was given the name Zerah.
Chapter 39.
Verse 1, now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt. Potiphar, an Egyptian who was one of Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him there. Verse 2, the Lord was with Joseph and he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. Verse 3, when his master saw that the Lord was with him and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did. Verse 4, Joseph found favor in his eyes and became his attendant. Potiphar put him in charge of his household, and he entrusted to his care everything he owned. Verse 5, from the time he put him in charge of his household and of all that he owned, the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian because of Joseph. The blessing of the Lord was on everything Potiphar had, both in the house and in the field. Verse 6, so he left in Joseph's care everything he had. With Joseph in charge, he did not concern himself with anything except the food he ate. Now Joseph was well built and handsome. Verse 7, and after a while his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, come to bed with me. Verse 8, but he refused. With me in charge, he told her, my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns he has entrusted to my care. Verse 9, no one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? Verse 10, and though she spoke to Joseph day after day, he refused to go to bed with her or even be with her. Verse 11, one day he went into the house to attend to his duties, and none of the household servants was inside. Verse 12, she caught him by his cloak and said, come to bed with me. But he left his cloak in her hand and ran out of the house. Verse 13, when she saw that he had left his cloak in her hand and had run out of the house. Verse 14, she called her household servants. Look, she said to them, this Hebrew has been brought to us to make sport of us. He came in here to sleep with me, but I screamed. Verse 15, when he heard me scream for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house. Verse 16, she kept his cloak beside her until his master came home. Verse 17, then she told him this story, that Hebrew slave you brought us came to me to make sport of me. Verse 18, but as soon as I screamed for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house. Verse 19, when his master heard the story his wife told him, saying, this is how your slave treated me, he burned with anger. Verse 20, Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. But while Joseph was there in the prison, verse 21, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. Verse 22, so the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. Verse 23, the warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care, because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did.